Welcome to another episode of the Feel Worthy podcast. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Kappa Delta Chi sorority sister, and fellow Florida State University alumna, Alexandra Piña. She's the founder of Duet Solutions, a virtual assistant business built on freedom, community, and the belief that you don't have to do it all by yourself. In this conversation, Alex and I dive into talking about her leap from a draining 9 to 5 to building a thriving company when it's really time to hire, how to find the right fit, and why delegation is the key to protecting your energy and vision. We also dive into the role of community, the rise of AI in the VA industry, and a new positive social media platform you'll want to start using if you're not already. Whether you're an event professional, entrepreneur, or just tired of carrying it all alone, this episode is packed with clarity, inspiration, and permission to finally let go of the superwoman myth. Let's get into it. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to the Feel Worthy podcast. And this conversation, I think, is going to be amazing for so many people, whether you're an event professional or you're a VA looking to work in the event industry. I think they're going to get a lot out of it. So before we dive in and you tell me all the things, I love asking every guest, what does feeling worthy mean to you in this season of life and business?
Feeling worthy to me just means feeling empowered, not being hesitant about your worthiness, what you bring to the table. I feel like as women, we tend to hold back because we don't want to come across as self-absorbed or we don't want to come off as too strong, but like men don't have any second thought when it comes to that. So feeling worthy to me is just like owning it and not being, held back by any hesitations.
I love that. I resonate so deeply with that. And I think it makes perfect sense to go into really telling us about the work you do and all about Duet Solutions, because in terms of taking control of your life and really owning it, that I feel from everything I've seen is what you've done. So tell everyone who doesn't know you yet all about Duet Solutions and a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, so I am the owner of Duet Solutions, which is a virtual assistant business. I launched this business back in 2021 because I was very fed up with corporate America. It was right in the middle of the pandemic where, we were forced to work from home, and I saw how much liberty there was by doing so and how much life there was to live because, it was the first time I think ever in the human history where we were all with the fact that we're all eventually going to die at one point. So what are we really spending our time on? So I was applying to other jobs. I wanted to leave my job at the time, which was as a talent agent, and everything I was applying to was sounding the same. It just was going to be a different company. And then on top of that, I wasn't hearing back from anyone. Even though I had all these years of experience under my belt, it just wasn't working out. So I eventually just thought of, what if I just work for myself and start doing something that is actually going to bring me joy and I'm going to feel empowered doing it. So I found out about virtual assistants, decided to go all in on it. Within 3 weeks, I had signed dream clients and said goodbye to corporate America. And now I've been doing the business for almost 4 years. It's going to be 4 years at the end of September. And I have worked with so many amazing clients, and I get to now coach aspiring virtual assistants to do the same because I was getting so many questions when I started asking me, how can I do this? And I just decided to say, you know what, I'm just gonna coach people because clearly they want to learn from me. And it's been a very fulfilling journey. And I now have gotten to the point where I have even shifted my business model a little bit, where instead of just doing regular VA work, I'm now an online business manager. So there's been different eras to the business, but overall, it is a virtual assistant business. And I also get to coach aspiring virtual assistants.
I love it. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I totally resonate with it. I think even back then, but even more so as since then, so many people have seen life is too short. And what are we really doing with our day to day? And how do we make it meaningful? What is the difference between a virtual assistant and an online business manager? Are they the same? Can you use them interchangeably?
Yes, I mean, you can use them interchangeably. I would say a virtual assistant handles more of like the day-to-day task. And obviously, there's different layers to a virtual assistant. You could have an admin virtual assistant that just manages like the admin work, whether it's email management, calendar management, like travel booking. You can even have a bookkeeper as a virtual assistant if they have that experience. And then you have the other side where you could have a creative or a tech virtual assistant. Creative being like content creation, graphic design, podcast management, tech being like website designer, webinar upkeeper, if you have like an online course. And you can have a virtual assistant that does all of it. Like I got to the point where I was doing all of that for some of my clients. So that's when I really turned this into more of the online business manager, where now I was the leadership role that where we had to start getting other contractors because it was getting too much for me to handle. So I was managing my clients' subcontractors in a way. And so that's more what an online business manager does. You do more of the logistics and strategization and just managing different teams at the same time. So it's like a regular manager at any type of company that you can think of, but it's more aimed at online businesses. So whether it's coaches, podcaster, content creators, that's the type of businesses that I handle.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes so much more sense. So really, the OBM is really like the project manager, like manager overseeing so many different either tasks or people, and then the virtual assistant is in this more tactical, more of the tasks, probably a little bit more straightforward. Would you say? Is that kind of the
Yes,
distinction? Okay.
100%. Yes.
Okay. So who actually needs a virtual assistant or online business manager? Is it every type of business? Is it just certain types? Walk me through, I guess, some of the clients that you found that actually need one versus those that maybe could live without it.
I would say a virtual assistant anybody needs. If you have a business, you could benefit from a virtual assistant because let's be honest, not everybody wants to be doing the tedious tasks every single day that take to run a business, right? Not everybody wants to be answering the same email over and over again or coming up with content ideas because we all know that content creation is a full-time job. So if you have a business you want to outsource as soon as possible to then help the business scale. I understand it's not necessarily in everyone's position or not everybody has the investment to hire right off the bat. But as soon as you do have that availability to be able to grow your team, I recommend 100% doing it. And hiring a virtual assistant is like the most financially savvy way of doing it because they're not really an employee, right? They're a independent contractor, so you don't have to worry about taxes or an office space or paying them benefits. Like they are taking care of that themselves because they're an independent contractor. You just hire them for what you need them. But at the same time, because they are an independent contractor, you have to know that they're not your personal assistant, you know? They are gonna probably have a multiple clients, so it's good to know what to expect from a virtual assistant when you hire one, but it's the best business decision in my opinion.
I think it's genius. And just the flexibility in them being remote and you can really just outsource or delegate tasks that, again, like you said, is just the tedious things or the things that are repeatable that someone else could do that you don't really need to be in it's not maybe someone's zone of genius, but it's theirs that they
Mhm.
can do and manage. But I guess, how does one work with a virtual assistant or even OBM? So is it through a project management tool? Is it just email? Is it day to day, like or weekly meetings? Like, what's the best structure would you say you found?
It's gonna depend on the client and the amount of support that they need, and specifically the tasks that they need help with, right? Because if it's more of like the admin side of it, there's really no need to meet to discuss emails unless like it's a specific kind of important emails. And then communication can be through Slack or Teams or something like that, that type of platform. When we get more into tech or content creation, that's when you start integrating more platforms. And again, the platforms are just going to be dependent on the type of task. For example, for me, I keep my business organized through Trello. That's my favorite project management software. I use it for the content creation side of my clients' businesses and also to keep my business organized behind the scenes with goals, a task that I have to do, to-do list, etc. Now, if we're getting more into course creation, which are some of the services that I've offered my clients, then we have Kajabi or School or Dubsado, which is more for, CRMs or Honeybook. So it just depends on what the client needs help with. But in terms of organization, I would say Trello is my favorite one, but other options are Monday.com, Asana, etc. Communication wise, again, it's going to depend on the client. I have a client who I have been working for now almost 4 years. So she's been my client since the beginning. We meet probably once a quarter. It's just a meeting, a 60-minute meeting just to catch up, check in, go over the insights, go over the sales, the numbers, the revenue, and think about what needs to change. Obviously, at the beginning, it wasn't like that. At the beginning, we were meeting probably like once a month. And then I have other clients who I just started working with in January who likes to meet at least once every 2 weeks. So it's just going to depend on the client. But that's when you meet on camera. On the day-to-day conversations, it's probably through Slack, sometimes WhatsApp business. Now Telegram is getting very big. And it's just that back and forth of like, for example, for me, I say, hey, I got this done. Can you review it? Let me know, your thoughts, if you want any changes. And typically a virtual assistant's response time is going to be anywhere from 48 to 72 hours. So if you send something to a virtual assistant today, they can get to it within 2 to 3 days. I'm a little bit quicker with my responses just because like I'm always on top of things. So I do have availability for last minute tasks, but it's very industry standard that a virtual assistant is going to charge you expedited fee if you want something the day of, because we do manage a lot of clients.
I've just learned so much in just everything you've said.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting way of working, but I love it.
Well, it's really flexible too, right? Like it's really dependent on the client and what they need and how they like to work, which, there's someone that likes to meet, like you said, every 2 weeks or weekly. And then there's those that are like, when you said every quarter, I was like, oh my goodness, they go that long without being face to face or like on a camera with you.
It's because we've gotten to the point where I handle the business like on automatic. I've been working with her for so long that I know what needs to get done. And then we meet once a quarter to discuss the results. But not every client is going to be like that. And of course, at the beginning, especially on the onboarding process, you should meet as many times as possible because you want to have that synergy in the workflow. You want to make sure that everyone is eye to eye with what needs to get done. But at the same time, that's also going to depend on the client and how prepared they are. Do they have SOP set in place? Do they have a business structure? A lot of clients don't, especially if this is the first time they're hiring. And that's why a VA is brought in to organize the business. But it's just going to depend on each client. Yes.
That means there's something for everyone and it could be versatile. You touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but so event professionals are high achievers and we're usually in high, fast paced environments that everything is pretty much go, go, go. There's a lot going on at any given point, and so many of us find it difficult to ask for help or be able to delegate the right things, whether it's that we know exactly what our client needs and how to do everything from A to Z, or honestly, I think as women and just people in general, sometimes it could be a sign of weakness to ask for help, which I think is a lot more to unpack. But there's just always different reasons why people feel like they can't delegate or can't ask for help. How can someone who knows they need help find a VA and then or OBM and then know the right task that that person can delegate to?
So I would say the very first step is to really sit down and make a list of every single task that is needed in order for the business to function. So every single thing that needs to happen, you write it down. Now, I'm guessing like in the events industry, it's also going to vary by client, but you have a certain idea of if it's this type of event, or if it's this type of event, this is what needs to happen. From there, you're going to start creating an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So then you can really take a look and say, I enjoy doing these tasks. I don't enjoy doing these tasks. These tasks take me way too much time. How can I outsource someone to help me with them? And by you already having that clarity, you'll be able to then find the right VA to help you with that. Because what I find a lot is that you see online these postings like, oh, I'm hiring a virtual assistant. And then the virtual assistant interview process comes along where you are in a discovery call with multiple options, but that you're not really sure what help you need or how you would delegate that help because I understand myself, like, I've hired in this point of my journey as a business owner, it came to a point where I myself as a VA needed a VA to help me out. And it's a very time consuming process. You have to put a lot of trust in this person. And so you want to make sure that there's a real synergy, a connection, and alignment there. And that's not going to come if you're not even sure yourself of what is needed to get everything done. So I think that would be the very first step. And then we get to hiring and then just having those conversations. Not, you don't necessarily have to go with the VA that has the most experience. You have to go with the VA that understands your business and has a vision for your business. And that's when it comes to the process of hiring.
The time, I think, is the biggest thing, where just finding the time. And I think as event pros, we get so in the weeds, and we also have a lot of things to do and expectations to meet, that just finding the time to sit down and write that list, even if it's just for our own like mental load capacity to take that off and see everything that actually needs to drill down. I know for me, I sometimes just I remember all these random details and I keep it stored in my head. So it's not until I write them down that I feel like, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. And I don't know if this is also what you find, where if you can find like where you fill your cup up, and these are the things that like I know I have to do and only I can do it. But there's like, other things like the emails you mentioned earlier, or just some other small tasks where you're like, someone else could really do this. But maybe it's a point of pride, I think, for people to say like, but I could do it. Like
No,
I get
course. Of course you can do it. Like all of these things, especially when it comes to hiring a VA, are stuff that you can do yourself for your business. But realistically, how much time is it actually taking you? Are you burning out in the process? And by you doing all these tasks, are you allowing the business to scale? Because if you're doing them, or you're not having really like that time and energy to do then more things that will help the business scale. So you have to take yourself and your ego out of it, and then like think and look at the bigger picture of like, okay, where this is where I want to take the business. Realistically, something has to change if I keep doing everything myself. And I know that's a hard point to get to, but we all reach that point in business where it's like, okay, I'm ready for the next step on entrepreneurship. What can I outsource to someone else? Because I can't keep doing everything myself.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's zooming, like you said, zooming out and really getting into that higher picture and bigger picture, where it's being 10,000 feet instead of being on the ground, which so many of us can always just like love to be there, because it's where the like the kudos and the satisfaction comes of like, oh, I fixed this problem and now I fix another. And it's, I mean, it's exciting, right? Like you just feel like you checked a lot of things off the list along the way. And also it's where a lot of people just love to thrive, right? Like being in the weeds on the scene. But if you want to get to that next level, you have to be able to like think more strategically or at a CEO level, and not always be in the weeds. It's a great opportunity also to teach someone else, like where it's
Yes.
something that they may be wanting to learn or improve upon, whether it's like someone in your team or you hire a VA and you're like, look, these are things I think would be great to, especially if they're learning about the events industry. Like they can learn about that instead of it being always you, always on you. So makes
100%. Yes. I feel like hiring is and outsourcing is just a perfect opportunity to also like, give back because you're mentoring someone in the process. And so it's important to, again, like hire the perfect team member for your team that wants to grow in this industry. Like I know when I started, I really wasn't in a particular industry where I was like, oh, I want to work here. It was more of like the type of business owner that I wanted to partner with. For me, it was immigrant business owners, small business owners that were making a difference. And one of my main clients was an investing coach. I have no idea about the financial world. I do not want to be in finance, but I know how important it is for generational wealth to be created, especially for my community. So I was like, I'm going to learn from her and like get as much information as I can to then pass it on to those around me. She became my mentor. Now I consider her a dear friend. So that's something you also have to consider when you're like hiring and outsourcing, is that you are going to really be building up the next generation of your industry.
how did you know that is a type of, whether it's boss or client, you wanted to work with?
So for me, it honestly came down to who do I see myself learning from, and at the same time, who would have I loved to have when I was in corporate. I feel like I was so traumatized by that experience Even though it wasn't a long experience, it was still very traumatizing, and I know a lot of people will resonate with that. But I was like, if I could have had like the perfect boss or manager or coworker, like who would have I wanted to have? And then that's the type of business and clients that I started applying to and pitching my services to. I pride myself on how much research I do before I pitch myself to a client because I want to understand or make sure that the business is actually one that I align with, like their mission is something I believe in. There are gonna be virtual assistants who are just looking for clients to pay the bills, and I don't look down upon that, but that's just not the mission that I'm in. That's not the mission of my business, and that's why I particularly made it my mission to partner with immigrants, small business owners, because I wanted to see, like, my whole community succeed.
Just like all of the things, Alex. Like, I think it's amazing. And I mean, to even have that foresight and like that vision yourself to know that these are the people I want to work with and align with. I don't know that everyone has that, but I think what you said is extremely important. Like figuring out what's important to you, really understanding the difference you want to make in the world. And that's something that can happen in this space and aligning yourself to. I think we can do that in corporate roles. And also, by the way, it doesn't have to happen for a long time for it to be traumatizing, but it also is an opportunity for you to just like give back in a different way. So I think everything you said is amazing and spot on and something important that I hope people take with like them. They can figure out what their next step is as long as they really sit down with themselves and align with what difference they want to make in the world and how they want to leave their legacy and maybe who they want to leave it with.
I was gonna add to that and say, like, sometimes because it has happened to me where I'm like, I'm not giving back enough to my community, and because we're so exposed to other communities and other people now through our phones. It's like we feel like what we're doing is not big enough or it's not going to actually make the difference. But it's small steps like this because specifically to the events industry, you might think, well, I'm just creating an event, but you really don't know how somebody's going to feel at your event. Maybe it was something that they needed, what connection was made through their for your event, what's something that happened specifically at that event. Like there's so many things that could happen. We're never gonna know, right? We're not never gonna have all the answers. But I would say like don't get discouraged when you feel like, oh, it's not actually making a difference or it's not special enough because it is. You just really never know.
I 100% agree. Have there's an event that I was part of, and someone told me, I think maybe a year or two later, so I don't even know if I don't think it was like that year, but a keynote speaker that we hired, he felt that that keynote speaker changed his life. And to this day, he will still say that. He's like, I like needed to be in that room and I needed to hear those words. And I took action after I heard him speak. But had I not gone to that event, I don't know if our paths would have crossed, or at least I would have heard him speak, maybe along the lines or along the way through social media, but it's not guaranteed. So just the fact that that kind of kismet moment happened for him, I mean, ever since then, he's like skyrocketed and done so many amazing things. But I didn't know in that moment. It wasn't until like many years later, I was like, I'm sorry, I mean, he was a great speaker. So don't get me wrong. I just was like, I didn't put the two and two together because I mean, it wasn't my lived experience. I knew I was just putting on the event and I just was like, oh no, he's great for these reasons. Never did I think that that person would have such a lasting effect on him, but I'm sure many others, right? And also just other speakers we've hired or a lesson that we had in the course. Like it's just we do it because we love it and we think it's the right thing to do. And I think as long as we keep doing that, then it'll impact someone. And I think that's the beautiful thing about just doing things with purpose. In the events industry and for event professionals, we are typically behind the scenes. And I know a lot of people like to be behind the scenes. There are a bucket of people that are like, you know what, let me get on stage and talk more. So you have a mix of both. But from those being behind the scenes, and especially as like a VA or OBM, like typically could be behind the scenes working on things while that business owner is like thriving or flourishing. But there's a whole machine of people that are like making it happen. You went from being behind the scenes in strictly VA to then growing Duet Solutions and Duet Academy. Now you're in front of the scenes and now you have students that you're bringing with you on this journey. What have you learned about like flipping the roles from being behind the scenes to now growing your business? What have you learned and what mindset shifts did you need to adopt to make that happen? Or did you already know?
No,
Have you
I definitely didn't know. I would say like this is an opportunity that fell on my lap because I saw the need for it. When I started my journey, I had no one that was an online business owner, let alone a virtual assistant. I was doing research on it because there are a lot of online scams. So I wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to be like a pyramid scheme or something. I was like, I want to get out of corporate. I don't want to be miserable in another, situation like that. So I did a lot of research and I only found, I believe at the time, two or three VAs that I saw legitimately doing this. And I did not see myself in any of them. Like, I did not relate to any of them in any sense. I would say the one that I related to the most was because she was like around my age, nothing else. So when I found success very quickly and I started getting DMs and questions and emails like, how do you do this? Is it actually work? Can you actually earn a livable wage through this? How do I start? Like all these type of questions. I immediately started giving back to my community. I would answer the DMs with 6-minute voice memos and like send you links and check this out and check that out. And it got to a point where I was burning myself out in the process because I kept sending the same messages over and over again. And of course, like I also didn't give like all of the information as in depth as I could, right? Like there's only so much I can share to you in a DM. So I saw the need and I was like, okay, so people trust me because I'm just showing up, sharing my journey. Like I wasn't even like promoting that I'm a coach because I didn't think about coaching at the time. I was just like, this is my life as a VA. This is where I'm traveling to. This is what I'm doing. This is who I work with. And one of my clients, the financial coach client, had a course and she kept telling me like, you should open a course. Like there's a huge need for this. And so I was like, okay, let me try it out. I ended up filming a bonus class for her course, just like the basics of getting into the virtual assistant world. And I really enjoyed the process. I was like, okay, like I can do this. I can film a video and like put it together and then, just share it with the world. And my very first launch, I would consider was very successful. I think I had like 5 students sign up, which for some like might be like, oh, okay, only 5 students. But for me, it was like I got 5 students to sign up and pay me money to learn from me. So I did that. And then I very quickly realized that the coaching industry is a whole nother beast. And I decided to become a coach around that time where everybody and their mother was selling an online course. So becoming a coach is definitely been 10 times harder than it was to become a virtual assistant. But I keep doing it because, again, to like my mission of just uplifting my community. So if I can help other women get out of a bad situation, whether it's corporate or they want to get back into the workforce and they're being, neglected because they left to like raise their children or their age. Ageism is something that I know I found a lot of virtual assistants deal with. They're like, I can't get a job in corporate because of my age. So now I'm just doing it for myself. As a VA, I want to help out. So that's why I keep showing up. I think that has been like the biggest mindset reminder that I have to tell myself, like, it's not about the sales and it's not about the money. Like, obviously, we all want more money because who doesn't? Like, I want to retire early. So the more money I could be making, the better. But ultimately, it's because of the people that I'm helping. And so that's something that I've had to constantly remind myself as I go through launches and I don't get necessarily always the same result. It's like, don't focus on the number of sales, focus more on like the students that have already trusted you and the more that will come, because at the end of the day, word of mouth is the biggest or the best marketing there is out there, in my opinion. So I know I have gotten my students great results and like the results will keep coming on their own time. You just have to be patient. Being in front of the camera now, because it's the camera at the end of the day, I wouldn't really say it's like it's on a stage, although I do want to like do more speaking events eventually. But being more in front of the camera, like promoting my services, is definitely nerve-wracking. I feel like also the same now, like everybody wants to be a content creator, be on social media, and there's this thought process of like, oh, I don't want to be cringy, or like I don't want certain people to think of me a certain way. I've gotten past that because I've been already doing it for 4 years. I really didn't even have that fear when I started, even though I feel like back then it was even more cringy because less people were doing it. So now I'm just like, I focus on who supports me. And support to me means like engagement. Like you comment, you like you answer to my story. Like those little things make such a big difference when it comes to the algorithm. The biggest lesson that I have gone through this entrepreneurial journey is to lean on your community, to really network and to find people that think the same way that you do and that will celebrate you like you celebrate them. And funny enough, most of the time, those people tend to be strangers on the internet who are doing the same thing as you know, that are believing in themselves and launching this business, even though, you know, they're super scared. And then they're going to support other businesses that are doing the same. I know that was a lot, but
No.
just kidding.
It was great. It was great. I really think, I mean, the fact that you can, there's so many things to unpack there. So one, I think with getting social media itself, like it was super cringy. I think sometimes it still can be cringy and or people just have that perception, right? Like they're just like, I think I'm gonna get judged. People are gonna look at me differently, or I might say the wrong thing. And how do I share what I want to share? But the reality is if you can just show up authentically, I think that is a game changer for everyone. And like you said, you found a community because people were looking to you because they resonated with you. They saw what you were doing and they're like, how can I do that? And kind of get out of my own way to do it, but also find someone that I relate to and is also showing up authentically. And I love that you started just posting that you were a VA and traveling, and then it just and it to me it sounded, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it just sounded like after you did that for a while, then you started changing more into like the business focus of like switching for a VA. But it sounded like it just started from fun, like from a fun point of view. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, I opened the Instagram business page because I wanted to attract clients. So at the very beginning, it was like, what is a virtual assistant? How can I help you as a virtual assistant? That type of content. But I became booked out very quickly. I became booked out in 3 weeks, which means like I had no
Right.
capacity for clients. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, I have the page. Now let me just show what it looks like to be in my shoes, like what my life is. And so I was sharing the trips that I was taking because since I can work remotely, I can work from anywhere. So I was like, okay, I'm working from this city and I'm working from this country. And so let me do this and let me do that. And that is something that people love. They're like, You're doing what? And you're going where? And how did you get here? How did you do it?" And so that's where the story started coming in. So it started promoting the business, then it became more about my life, and then it shifted again into promoting how a virtual assistant life can look and how it can help you get there.
It makes sense, and I think life and work are so ingrained together now. Before, it felt like you had to keep your work life separate from your home life, and you only talked about one at one, and you maybe talked about work at home, but it was like, don't bring your home life into work. Whereas this, you can, and I think just in 2025, it's more acceptable to bring both together. And that's what people want, right? Like you want to see that you're putting like life first, but you're also working and getting clients. Out of curiosity, favorite place you've traveled to
Favorite place I've would
and worked from? So you worked and traveled at the same time.
okay, so yeah, so travel and worked from, I would say there's just so many good ones, but I would say Italy has a special place in my heart, specifically Tuscany. I lived there for an entire month and made the best memories ever. So yeah, I completely loved. Even though the internet wasn't the best necessarily where I was staying, it was still like a joy to work from there and have that experience.
That was my follow-up. Like, now I think it's more normal for people to work from anywhere, coffee shop, Tuscany. I'm a little jealous, by the way. But now people can work from almost anywhere. But are there things to think about for anyone that wants to travel and work abroad? I know you said Wi-Fi wasn't great, but did you have things to overcome that? And anything else that you would say, like, watch out for?
Yeah, I had a remote it's a remote router, so it looks like this, and so you just turn it on, and it has an app, and you can pay per gigabyte of internet, or you can get the unlimited plan, which is what I was doing basically, and you can connect, don't quote me, but like at least 80 countries it works in. So when my Airbnb or the coffee shop that I was at didn't have really good signal, then I would just turn this on and then use it. So that was a lifesaver, especially when it came down to Airbnbs. Like sometimes they just didn't have really strong connection. Most of the time, if you're going to a coffee shop, they are going to have Wi-Fi because they want you to go there for that. And then I would say to look out for, definitely use a VPN, especially as you're traveling around. Like you want to protect your IP. I was always like working from airports or like coffee shops, like very public spaces where anyone can just log into your information through the internet. So I always used a VPN when I was working abroad.
Okay, so with putting life first and being able to travel and work abroad and and work the business that you have, how do you help clients build systems that don't just support the business, but also help them put life first?
So my priority always is looking how can we make the business automated. Yes, so what can be done through AI or through automations? Do we really need to be sending the same email over and over again? Where is the availability for that and how do we create workflows? So if this needs to get done and this needs to get done after, then how can we expedite that process in the middle? All of that comes with a lot of organization of knowing what needs to get done and then also knowing and having the strategy brain to make it more effective. So I've been able to do that exactly for the majority of my clients. The ones that I'm not including is because I just started working with them. So I don't want to like say I've gotten them that result, even though I still haven't, but we're going to get there. But by doing that, they've been able to get back so many hours of their day, which has allowed them to get that work balance that they were craving and also think of other ways that they can keep growing the business, which ultimately is my goal because I want to help businesses that I work with scale as much as possible. I take pride of being very detail oriented. So that's why I give myself time to get things done. I feel like by understanding myself and like the ways I thrive, I have become organized. Like I have to have my to-do list written down every morning so that I can feel ready for the day because if it's not like I'm just like wasting time doing things that probably were not priority.
Yeah. No, I totally hear that because there's so many things that get our attention, whether it's like looking on social and doom scrolling or being able to answer a phone call or text or even just other emails that come through. It can be super easy and I'm sure very distracting, even especially in this role because everyone wants your attention, right? Or someone could ask for something last minute. Being organized, I think, is critical. I mean, I'm a bit of a type A, so it's my love language.
I used to hate it, but now I embrace it.
Honestly, it gets things done.
And by this I mean like you don't have to be type A to succeed as a virtual assistant or as a business owner. I know a lot of type B people
Yeah.
and or I should say I know a lot of type B virtual assistants who are still very successful. It's just
Yep.
about knowing how you best work so that way you can sell yourself up for success because at the end of the day, like especially when you are a virtual assistant, you only have yourself to rely on. There's not going to be anyone checking in like, hey, did you get this done? Or reminder that the deadline is tomorrow. Or, don't forget that this client asked you for this and you forgot because you didn't write it down, right? Like you need to take that into account and also remember that at the end of the day, it's your reputation. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, word of mouth is always going to be your best marketing strategy. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your clients happy. And you do that by being professional and organized. So just do what works best for you, but do it.
And I wanted to ask this as well. Since you have your pool of students and you know that those that are VAs, how can an event professional or a solopreneur looking for a VA, like how do they start finding one? Are we just Googling this or
No.
like or is there indeed like I this feels like such a niche type of job. Like where do you find one and then find a good person that's going to do this? Like so if you can walk me through that, I'd love that.
Yes. So I would say right now, the best strategy, which might surprise a lot of people, is actually Threads. Threads is like such a good platform to find virtual assistants or to find any type of answer that you want to know. Um, and I say this by like, for example, if you want networking opportunities, you want to like host an event and find people that will be interesting in attending, that's where you're really creating community. I love Threads. And I know this because recently I've been going to it, searching the world of virtual assistant, and so many threads come up of people saying, like, I need a virtual assistant for this. Like, does anybody know anyone? And there's so many comments. And then there's questions, right, from my side of the business, like, how do I get started as a virtual assistant? And so I get the opportunity to reply there and say, like, this is how you start. Check out my page if you want to learn more. So there's both of those areas. You can also look on Instagram or TikTok. A lot of people are using that now, especially the younger generations, as the new Google, as a search bar. So that's why a lot of virtual assistants have that in their name. So it's searchable. So you can go there and start like looking at their posts. Not necessarily every virtual assistant is going to have like a lot of followers or a lot of posts, because they might not be social media virtual assistant. They might be more tech, or they might be more admin, but you can still find them there. That's why I always say Threads first. And then you have your freelancer pages like Upwork or Fiverr, but you have to take into consideration that most of the time on those pages, it's going to be international virtual assistants. So from the Philippines or Vietnam, which are going to be very cheap, but you have to consider also the time difference and then the language barrier. So it's just going to depend again on the type of services that you want. But if you want really good options from people in your community that they can refer, Threads is the place to go.
That is brilliant, genius, because I would have never looked on Threads. When it first came out, I think it was a bit overwhelming and not anyone knew what to do with it. Like, is this a new X or Twitter? Or like, are we doing the same things we did on those platforms or AIM where you just like post your thoughts, or MySpace and you just post your thoughts out there? And I mean, I'm sure some of it that it is, but I think it's really developed into more of like a better social platform now that we kind of gotten used to it. But it was so new that honestly, I have not looked at my Threads in a while. I will now.
Yeah,
Uh,
no. Girl, I was the same. I was never a Twitter girly. I hated Twitter. I felt like there was so many trolls and just hate, and I don't
yeah.
like that. So when Threads was created, I was like, this is just gonna be like the new one. And
Again.
especially knowing that Instagram tends to be more of like a highlight reel where people are all about appearances, I just knew that Threads was gonna be something similar. I was like, no, I'm not even gonna open this. And then I started hearing so many people in my community raving about it. They were like, Threads is the best. Like, people always celebrate you. Like, the posts that go viral are the ones where you're like celebrating even the smallest of wins. Like, oh my God, I made it to the gym today. And it goes viral because so many people are just like congratulating you for showing up. And I was like, let me check this out. And it's real. Like, I feel like the trolls of the internet have not realized that Threads is so positive. So that's why they're not there yet. In a way, I want to keep it like hush hush so we can keep spreading there. But no, I love Threads. I'm completely obsessed with it. I rave about it anytime I can because it really is like so positive and supportive. And I love that. And the algorithm is still very different, kind of like how Instagram was back then, where it would show you things from like people that you actually follow. And then because you can retweet or repost in a sense, well, it's actually repost, not retweet, but it's basically that you can repost other people's threads, then you start getting similar things. So like, the algorithm just really gets it really quick.
I find that with TikTok, like the algorithm with TikTok, I find like it's pretty easy, but I find that on TikTok, people are generally like just wanting to converse and like engage with you, and it feels easier to just be yourself and speak freely, and people will just like engage with you either positively or just in general. Whereas I feel like this is a whole social media rant that we're just going off of. But on Instagram, it's a little harder. I think it's like you have to either have the perfect content or the perfect lighting, and it's really a highlight reel more than it is like just showing up.
Yeah. Instagram is very curated, very
Yeah.
curated. Yeah.
Okay, so switching gears to something a little bit more fun and event oriented. So I've seen and I know you're a concert girly and you also love events. So what's been your favorite either show, concert that you've been to, or festival, or anything that you've been to, and why?
I would say concert, it's a tie between Coldplay or Taylor Swift, the Eras tour. Coldplay, I loved so much because it was just like every range, like you would see people in every single age in their life. I love that it was like literally like this is like humanity in one place at one time, and I love the energy there. And then the Eras tour obviously was iconic, and the production of it, like that woman sang for 3 hours straight, and I was tired by the end of it. So I don't know how she does it, like how she did it so many nights in a row. Festival wise, I'm gonna keep it local to Orlando and say EDC Orlando. Like the production is always like top notch. Obviously, there's EDC Las Vegas, which is like the main one. I've never been. I hope to go soon, probably next year, crossing my fingers. but just having that in Orlando is just like so much fun. It's like always the best weekend with my friends. Like we enjoy it so much. My friends were now talking, saying like, I think I'm gonna stop going the 3 days, maybe two. We're getting older, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep going the 3 days because like we only have this once a year. But yeah, I think that's my favorite one that out of the ones I've gone to.
EDC Orlando has a special place in my heart. I've never been to Vegas, but I hear incredible things. I totally give it up to Taylor Swift for that Eras tour. It was, I don't even know that I would have called myself a big Swiftie before I went. I went in Tampa in April, so like the first leg of the tour.
Oh my God, yeah,
And
that's the same one I went to.
really,
Mhm.
my goodness, I have to figure out the date I was there, but
Yeah.
we'll find out offline. But I think I was forever changed after that. Like, not in a sappy way or just dramatic. Like, really, like it was so well thought out. It was can't I didn't even expect it to be 3 hours because it was just the first part, like the first time of the tour. So maybe there was a few other shows before that, but I was like, "Are we still here?" And not in a bad way. I just was like, "Is there more?" And like normally they cut you off after an hour and a half and it's over, but no, it was phenomenal. So we believe, and I know you do, believe in like grounding ourselves in self-care and putting life first. So what's one habit that helps you stay grounded while growing your business?
Journaling. Journaling has been a life changer for me. Specifically, I'm a big spiritual like astrology girly. I love to manifest during the new moons and then just reflect during the full moons. So I take that opportunity to like really journal and think about where I want to be in the next 6 months or where I was after 30 days. And then I do like goals and intentions at the beginning of every month. And that has really like allowed me to one settle into myself and like what have I achieved and then keep dreaming bigger because I feel like we get to a place of complacement, like we're just comfortable where we're at, and that's totally okay, but then you can't keep growing if you don't keep pushing yourself. So journaling has really allowed myself to do that. And something that I tended to do more at the beginning of my journey, I'm getting back to it now, is just daily affirmations. It's really a game changer because you really start rewiring your brain and the way you think when you start saying affirmations every single day.
Are you saying affirmations out loud? Are you writing them on your mirror? What's the process for affirmations?
I am more of one to say it out loud. Like I say it to myself. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror, sometimes not. I'm just like repeating it to myself. And I voice it out loud. Like if you just say it in your brain, yeah, it works, but it has more power when you say it out loud. Something that a coach actually taught me recently is just to record a voice memo and like play it to myself as soon as I wake up or as I'm going to bed. And because it's like your own voice, like your brain like really like grasps this and understanding. You don't even talking about you're hearing yourself.
That is genius.
Mhm.
It's like your own like meditation or like podcast, like affirmation recording. I am going to do that. You brought up an interesting thing, which I know we're in the fun section, but we're just gonna pop right out.
Mhm.
Um, AI and the in the virtual space, and how do you see that? Have you seen it impact like the virtual assistant space? Although I've seen the stats on being a VA and OBM, and it seems like that is just a growing business. So it doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. But have you seen AI impacted at all, or has it helped in any way?
Oh yeah, it definitely has helped. I would say like at the beginning people were freaking out. Not myself. I really was like there's no way.
We don't know enough.
Yeah, we don't know enough, and there's always the need for that human aspect, right? Like AI can definitely be a tool to help out, but it's not going to completely overtake this industry. So now it's definitely been a tool that I have started utilizing to the best of my ability. Um, it helps so much when it comes down to like content creation and like what you're good at but don't necessarily enjoy, or vice versa, like you enjoy but you're not necessarily good at. For example, for me, like I really enjoy creating content but I hate the writing process. Like I can tell you an idea and like come up with strategies. But then when it comes down to like writing an email for a funnel, I'm like, oh my God, how do I want to word this? Like it just takes so much out of me. So something that a coach taught me was like, grab your phones, record a voice memo, say the idea, and then like grab the transcript and put it into Chat GPT. You got the email written. And I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. So it's definitely a tool. I don't think it's gonna replace the human aspect of it. Of course, like you have to think about that when you're starting your business. Like, okay, how can I make myself different than AI? Like, how can I prove to the client like, oh, this is not just something that ChatGPT can do for you. Like, this is how I do it differently, or this is how I do it better, right? So yes, now we have to get more creative because you have to think about the fact that the client probably has ChatGPT to help them out too. But you can like sell yourself as an AI expert. Like, how long is it going to take you to train the AI to think like you or to speak like you? I already have those prompts. I already have those tools that it's going to take you a lot of hours to figure out yourself.
I think it's brilliant. Like, make AI the tool that works with you. It's a partner. It's another resource. Like when you said Trello earlier, it's a tool like that. It's not going to replace. And totally agree with the human element. I think in events we also thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take over. I'm like, but robots cannot give you the smile or the
Oh,
human connection that you're gonna get from an actual person. There are things that I could help you with, but I don't think we're anywhere close to the robots taking over completely.
yeah, no, and I think like the problem solving aspect of it, like yes, like AI can give you solutions, but like you don't really know what the problem is going to be until you're there, especially when it comes to events. Like there's so many variables that could go wrong the day of the event. So, yeah, it's better to have like an actual human being that has experience dealing with those types of events and being in that pressure to deal with it.
Absolutely. And even a VA too, like I can ask AI to write an email, but if I need something else where I need to call someone or I need to make sure another part of my business is functioning, there's no way that I just can type it into ChatGPT or another resource like that and then it solves it automatically. I think there's room for both.
Totally.
So any question do you have, or what's one question you have to ask an event professional? It can be anything. It could be about production, events, shows, personal life, you name it. But I like to ask this question for those that are not in the event industry, and then we'll get the audience to answer it so that they can share their tips and best practices.
A question. I would say a question for me would be, how do you define, or I guess pick like the type of niche that you want when it comes to events? Because like when I think about events, like we can talk about weddings, we can talk about corporate events, or we can talk about live events, right? But I'm sure there's so many other different types of events that I don't even know because I'm not in the industry. So how do you pick one, and then how do you succeed best at it? Like what can you do to like be the best in that area?
I'm Alex. You are coming up with the greatest answers today. I love this question so much. For the woman listening who knows she's ready for more freedom, but feels stuck doing it all alone, what do you say to her?
You don't have to do it all on your own at all. Like there's people that can help, there's resources, there's community. Don't do it all on your own, because that's the quickest way to burning out and to giving up on this dream that you deserve, and that vision that you have. Because if you're having that vision, is for a reason.
So now, Alex, coming to a close, where can people go to work with you, learn more about you, and anything exciting that listeners should keep an eye out for?
So my Instagram handle is at Duet Solutions, also on Threads. Love Threads. For TikTok, you can find me at alex.duetsolutions. And I believe it's the same for YouTube, although I'm not as active there. And as far as exciting, Duet Academy is officially open for enrollment. I'm super excited because doors had been closed for 9 months, but I was just like recouping and working with new clients. Now I've put a lot of work into the branding and just like the messaging and just opening doors again and creating different levels of support, because not everybody learns the same way. So if you are interested in becoming a virtual assistant or learning more about that world, you can check it out in my Instagram, Duet Solutions. And if you're looking for a virtual assistant, you can also connect with me there, because I have a ton of students who are looking for clients.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.